And we're live. Welcome to Cleveland Business Live, episode 51. I'm Lisa Cole with the Came team and Berkshire Hathaway. And if you want to talk anything business, real estate related, send me a message. I'm happy to help in any way I can. And that's my exterminator. But anyways, today I'm very excited to have Tom Gottlieb on with us. Tom is our senior business broker and certified business intermediary for Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. And welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me today, Lisa. This is an exciting discussion. Lots of people have questions about how to sell a business.
Yes, I love this topic. And you came to our meeting about a month or so ago, and I just found it to be so interesting. I didn't even know that this profession existed. So I just wanted to have you on. And then the more I talked to you, the more I said I want to get involved in it myself because I know so many business owners. And so before we dive into exactly what a business broker is and what we do, I would love for you to just share your background because you have a pretty extensive, rich background in this industry.
Yeah, so Lisa, I'm with Berkshire Hathaway, like you are, home services, professional realty. My office is based in the southern part of Ohio, down in Mason, Ohio, just on the northeast portion of Cincinnati. And so my background, as you can tell, I'm a more mature looking individual. I started my career out in large corporate America, and from there slowly transitioned in different parts of the country into some smaller companies where I got involved in some acquisitions and divestitures of companies. And my real start in business brokerage world, I would say, started when I was involved with private equity firms and we were buying and selling businesses. And so that became really the nucleus or the point at which I kicked off this process. And that's sort of why I got the picture of my background of New York, because that's where I started all this. And so I've been involved with business brokerage in a number of different parts of the country. I had a business brokerage firm in Austin, Texas, and I've been involved with some other business brokers across the country. And now I'm with Berkshire Hathaway in Ohio. And so we help business owners sell businesses across Ohio.
I love that. And then what about if it is in a different state? Is that going to be referred out if we know somebody who's looking to buy or sell in a different state?
Well, you know, from Ohio's standpoint, we have people also in our team that's in Northern Kentucky. So from a greater Cincinnati standpoint, we touch Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana also. We have people. And as you know, from being in the Northeast, we have people that work the western part of Pennsylvania too. And we have some of our team members work on the southern part of Michigan. And so we then really conduct these situations and transactions for people in Ohio, but all the connecting states of Ohio.
Okay. And I love the part of your background where you were in private equities because you know the ins and outs of business to the point where you were buying businesses to rehab them essentially and sell them for a higher value.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been involved with some startup companies in different parts of the country. And I've helped people grow them, flip them, sell them. And so I've been involved with all aspects of the business in many different industries.
And what size businesses are we talking about?
That's a great question. Predominantly small business in America that we help owners with is where the enterprises were somewhere between maybe a few $100,000 to predominantly, let's say on the upper side, maybe $5 to $10 million and everything in between. And that's where 90% of small businesses operate in America. And there's probably in the range of 20,000 businesses like that in Ohio alone.
Wow. And how does a business owner go about, if they're thinking about phasing out or if they're thinking about maybe bringing a partner in and selling different pieces of a portion of the business to a partner or a investor, how do they go? What happens? How do they go about, finding out what it's worth? And
yeah, it's a great question. And this is exactly what business owners often want to know. how much my business is worth and how does this whole process work. And so that's what's key in having a discussion with us and working with us, because number one, the first thing we do in working with the owner is we conduct what we call a broker opinion of value of the company. And we would work with the owner, analyze their financial statements and go through a valuation process, and then conduct a discussion with the owner and say, based on these situations and this background of your company, we think the company is worth this. And then we explain to them this process of how it works. And the most important part of all this is we do all this confidentially. We don't sell a business like somebody sells a house, for example. We don't tell anybody about where the business exists or who exactly owns it or what the address is until we have confidentiality agreements in place. And so we conduct this whole confidential process while the business owner is continuing to run the business. And to your question, really, is sometimes people aren't like, they don't know for sure if they're ready.
Right.
And it's really important that we sit down with the business owner and like strategize a plan on when we should do this process. And so that's what we sit down and just start talking about.
And I've talked to a number of friends of mine and just let them know that, we're in this business. If they ever want to, if they know of anybody, or if they're thinking about, selling themselves, a lot of them are saying, 2 or 3 years out, maybe 2 to 4 years down the road. When do they start this process? How far ahead of time?
Well, that's a great question. I would say the earlier the better. If somebody starts thinking about it, let's say 2 years out, the process takes a close to a year anyway. So let's say somebody's thinking about it. Let's say, gee, I might want to do this maybe 2 years from now. That's really good timing, because the next 12 months, they should start planning the business to sell and sort of doing what you would do in a house. You have to start cleaning up things and staging the business. Yeah. And so that means getting all the processes in place, making sure you know who does what, really start analyzing the financials, and really going through whatever the unique steps are for those particular uh, business owners and everything that goes on with their business, and really prepare for the process. And so that's really great that somebody would look out that far. So many times, really find out a business owner kind of thinks about it maybe too late. And so the earlier the better is really the important
How do you
aspect.
say that? What would make it too late?
Well, sometimes what happens is, unfortunately, let's say business owners who are baby boomers who maybe run into, let's say, a health situation or their spouse or family, and then they feel rushed a little bit. And
Okay.
so we don't want to like jump in and rush the process, because you can't like push the buyers to do something. They want a little time to evaluate the business. And so we want to market it properly, put together the right kind of marketing plan that fits their needs. And we have to have a certain amount of time. Even when we start negotiating with the buyer and the seller, that process takes some time. And if there's some financing involved with the bank, for example, if there's a small business administration loan involved, that'll take an additional 12 weeks. And so there's just a lot of aspects of a time standpoint, and the earlier the better.
And I know, so it's almost a little bit like retirement planning, right? I mean, if somebody's thinking about retiring at some point, they may want to consult with us to see what do they need to do, have everything lined up. So if they ever do want to pull that trigger, they can. I know that, or you said that you need at least 3 years of financials, that, tax returns, profit and loss, balance statements, all of that.
Yeah, in order to conduct the valuation. And so back to that point, is a business appears to be and is more valuable if there's 3 years of financial history, and those 3 years show successful growth of some sort that's going on in the past 3 years. And so you've got the right trajectory of the business. And so every business owner, buyer, every business who has interest in buyers, they want to see the last several years, because a business is priced predominantly on what's been proven historically over the last several years, and people want to see a track record, and that typically is 3 years. And so that's why it's important. Do we get the profit loss statements and or the tax returns, which are hopefully the same, and the balance sheet, so we look at what kind of assets are going to go in the sale.
What are some of the hottest businesses right now, or what are some of the most desirable businesses out there? Or is it just different based on your personality, what you're interested in, and all of that?
Hot businesses are businesses that are in niche situations that are generating very favorable cash flow for the existing owners. And somebody who would come in would look at this and say, I see that the business is done well, and it looks like there's lots of, quote, runway to go forward if I do A, B, and C. And so I would say it's not necessarily industry related as much as it is maybe a small business owner really has a niche within a certain industry that they're very profitable, and it's not so much commodity based where there's a lot of competitors, that they're in some situation where there's not too many competitors.
Okay.
And it's a very profitable growing business. That's what buyers are looking for.
I love it. All right. Well, anything else that you feel people need to know?
I'd like to point out the whole process again of what's important is this is what we do well, is we run this process while the business owner continues to run the business. We handle all the buyer interfaces, and we do this, everything is confidential. We manage this process from the point at which we market the business. We conduct all the discussions with the buyer. We help the buyer through due diligence. We help the buyer and seller work out the terms of an agreement. We work with both sets of, let's say, attorneys who represent the buyer and seller. We facilitate that process. So we go through and we manage all the steps necessary to conduct a business sale while the business owner continues to run the business and continue to make it profitably. And confidentiality is key. So that's what I think is really important for people to understand.
What is the average time it takes to sell a business typically?
That's a great question. I'll say normally average is 8 months from start to finish. So and if there's, let's say, complex financial loans involved, it'll take longer than that. If it's a cash situation where we can do something, it'll be shorter than that. If the due diligence process doesn't take long, it'll be shorter than that. So if all the steps are in place and we've talked about this in advance and we've planned this, it'll take shorter. And if we're kind of putting this together, not us, but maybe the seller at the last minute, it might take longer.
And I'm just curious, with the housing market, there's a shortage. Do you find that there's a shortage in businesses right now as well? Or do you find, do you do buyer and seller markets in the business brokerage world or no?
Yeah, we predominantly represent the seller, but to answer your question too, there's a significant amount of money, I'll say, available for people to buy businesses. There's a lot of companies that would like to expand from making outside acquisitions. There are investors out there looking to buy businesses. There are people who, especially from the pandemic, that maybe have decided it's time to pivot in their life and they would like to get, the situation, let's say they were in, it's like, I think it's time for me to do something different. So with all those factors together, there's a tremendous opportunity right now to sell businesses and have buyers who are interested in it.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Time has flown. I could talk about this all day, but thank you so much for coming on. And I would love to have you back, and we can maybe dive into the different little intricacies of all of it. And
Okay, super.
yeah, and if anybody would like to get in touch with you, I know you're not on Facebook yet. We might convert you, but until then, should I just put your number in the comments?
LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, deal with professional interfaces with people through LinkedIn, my telephone number, and my email address.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye, everyone.